the desert of the real.
Welcome to a special two-part episode of Avengers Age of Ultron. This is Desert of the Real, movie podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hudson.
And I'm your co-host, Jason Dietz.
Or we're joined by a special guest, my sister.
My name is Christy. I'm Ryan's sister.
This is Desert of the Real, a movie podcast where I force Jason to watch movies he does not want to watch, as you can tell by part one. Movies he doesn't think are worth his time. We're two high school teachers. We teach English, film, philosophy, and creativity classes. We have graduate degrees, and we are trying to use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, philosophy, ethics of our films, and push you, the listener, to think critically about your entertainment. Please enjoy part 2 of Avengers Age of Ultron.
That banner is the only one showing a reaction to what happened during that part. I mean, we get his conversation with Black Widow. She is reacting. Her reaction, yeah. But we also see
the one person I could connect to just abandoned me.
Yeah.
Yes, but we also see Tony and Cap come together, and they do fight about what's happening as they're chopping the wood. I like the chopping the wood part.
Don't take from my pile.
Don't take from my pile.
Yeah.
And like there maybe their issues are a little bit more surface level, but because Tony still believes that Ultron is ultimately the right thing, even though it didn't work that they made, and Cap is saying like he disagrees obviously, and they're having issues about it. In fact, there was something you said earlier. I don't remember exactly what you said, but you talked about like trying to prevent the danger from happening is stupid. Cap says that too. He says anytime anyone ever tries to prevent a war from happening,
Yep.
something.
People die.
People die like every time. Yeah,
It's true.
And it's a good point because I feel like I see both sides of the Cap Iron Man argument. Cap, because there's kind of a character switch here where I think that Tony is thinking of people more than at the beginning of his arc back in 2008. Now he is thinking of the people. He wants to prevent the need. He wants them to not need the Avengers. He wants there to be protection that they don't need them anymore.
Right.
And Captain America is now the one
they're
questioning authority.
Yeah.
Rules and stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about that last.
We did. But if Tony Stark could ever get out of himself, I think that desire could happen. Like the desire to protect everyone. But he's just so into himself that he thinks he's the only one that can do it. He's the only one that has the ideas. He's the only one that whatever. Despite the fact that he brings in Banner to help him create the thing, it's still his idea. It's his plan. Yeah. It's his thing.
That's a fair argument, but I think that's kind of what makes Tony Stark that character. Like that's his big character. Suck. I think that's just his flaw. That's his big character flaw.
But also his worst fear is seeing his friends dead.
Guess who's going to cause that? Him, because he can't get out of himself.
But he thinks he's right.
So it's not like he doesn't care about
how many times does he have to be wrong? This is like 6 times in this freaking movie series. He's wrong. When is he going to figure it out? Never, because he's so freaking into himself.
I don't think that that's an accurate representation of what we're being shown in the movies.
Correct.
I don't think he's into himself. Obviously, he does have ego, but that's like a painting on top of who he is.
Who is he then?
I think he does care about people and the world. I think he's concerned, and why this movie even happened. He needed to protect the planet.
He needed to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not us, not the team.
Because he has the means,
Well, he already knows Cap disagrees. Like, well, if he brings it to the team, it's like, I don't want to fight about this anymore. I just want to do... Yes, it's a problem. No, he shouldn't do that, but that's his character. That's who he is. That's his response.
And I don't like it. I mean, it's okay. I'm good. I have my opinion.
Okay.
Y'all have yours. Tony, who's supposedly this super intelligent person, doesn't learn. like we had, wasn't it the last Avengers movie that Hydra was trying to basically do the exact same thing that he's trying to
In
do?
Civil War, yeah.
No.
No, Civil War has
Winter
Whatever.
Soldier.
Sure, Winter Soldier. So,
Iron Man in Winter Soldier?
No,
but
the idea is the same.
The idea
right,
is the same.
but
Okay.
like I'm assuming he's up to current events. Hydra literally was trying to do the exact same thing, and now we have Tony coming in. I'm going to enforce peace or whatever on the planet. It doesn't work. It creates an evil thing. What's his response? Well, let's make another one. And do it again. He doesn't learn, and he can't. I think it's because he thinks he is smarter than everyone else on the planet.
I don't think that.
I think that's why, because he can't comprehend the idea that maybe I don't have the answer. Maybe money and tech is not going to solve this problem. Maybe there are other resources we need to bring in.
Well,
I'm done. You guys can.
it's likely he does feel that way, like money and tech, because that's all he has. He's got intelligence, he's got money, and he's got the technology. And he thinks that, yes, it's his responsibility. He was the one that flew the missile up through the wormhole. He has put that responsibility on himself. So, like, yeah, he can't get out of his own way. That's this thing. He can't get out of his own way. And, yeah, the issue of I'm going to protect the world, the same thing Hydra was doing before, and now he's doing it too. It's a problematic thing to try to figure out. Like, how are we going to prevent all wars from happening? How are we going to prevent any invasion? How are we going to protect the entire world? How do you do that and not take away the rights of the people, not have...
Right.
Okay, but
The
he's not
world
taking rights away like Hydra did. He just...
How?
Because he wants to literally build a suit of armor around the world.
Right.
He doesn't want to control the people on the world. He wants to protect from people invading the planet.
Which sounds like an awfully cold world, Ryan.
It does, but to him who flew the missile through the wormhole,
Yeah.
that sounds like a better world
here's what I'm
than
thinking,
one
'cause-
that's under threat of constant invasion from aliens.
Okay.
Because Tony is a scientist. And I saw Oppenheimer not too long ago.
Nice, me too.
Oppenheimer wanted... It's not like he wanted to build a bomb to kill people, but he wanted to build something because he knew what to do it. Science made him excited.
Yes.
Tony Stark sees the problem, and he thinks he has the solution. It's not like he's just like, I want to solve this problem. I need to solve this problem
Yes.
for him to feel good. Not
Yes.
not
I
for
agree.
others to praise
Correct.
him.
Okay, so there's the problem.
What's the problem with that?
Because he's already had 2 examples of his solution, which is tech and money, not working.
Yeah.
Not only not working, but like not working on a globally disastrous scale. And his response is, let's try again.
Yeah,
Well,
That's a moron.
okay, but
But what other response is he gonna have? That's his his
Exactly.
realm.
That's what I'm trying to
You're
say.
arguing that these people don't have dimensions, but this is a character flaw.
Yeah.
This is what makes
No,
him interesting.
it's a single note. What else can I do? Well, I can't do anything else, so I'm going to keep pounding this note regardless of whether
And
it works or
That
not.
makes him interesting and
That
compelling.
makes him a moron.
No, it makes him human. It makes him like us.
So, okay. So I'm a teacher.
Okay.
If I have a class, I have, 4 hours of dual enrollment. And I have this idea, I'm going to try it out. First hour, it completely crashes and burns and disintegrates.
Okay.
Let's do it again. Second hour, completely crashes, burns.
Well, here's the
class.
thing.
Hold
Hold on.
Let's try
hold
it
on.
again.
Counter-argument.
Third hour. Fourth hour.
Cover the microphone.
No.
Okay, counter argument. After your first hour crashes and burns, second hour, do you completely abandon everything and start from scratch? Or do you
No.
just try a variation of
Yes.
what you already tried?
True.
Also, second hour, are there different students there?
Sure.
So now we have a different variable with this Infinity Stone vision thingy. Like, the variables have shifted.
He did not know that Vision was going to come out of that.
He didn't.
He didn't.
Well, he kinda
Like, there
knew- he
wasn't
knew-
even
he
freaking
knew
enough.
something was going to
He
come
thought
out of it.
exactly something was gonna happen. He was doing an experiment.
See, no. So he did Ultron.
I don't understand how you guys can.
I don't.
I don't understand why you don't see it as a character
Well,
flaw.
I think
It
good.
is a character
he,
flaw.
He had Ultron and it failed. Like that failed.
Yes.
In his mind, though, like he still needs to do something to protect the entire world.
Yeah.
And he finds his Jarvis, his version of Jarvis, the thing that had already been programmed to protect and to help, and to we established in the first one he had all his bots evacuating the city as the battle was going on. Like that's already programmed. Like it's already part of that creation. So he turns to that one, a variation of the same idea of Ultron, with something more fine-tuned to what they were looking for. So he tries again with that variation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah,
I
I
can argue that point.
No, I understand that.
Like we're getting
What
down
happens-
to. We think it's good, but
What
you think
happens-
it's bad.
Yeah.
So what happens to bring it back into my classroom? Crash, burn, horrible thing. What happens if I go out into the hall here? Because I do every hour I'm out in the hall supervising the hall, and there are 3 other teachers out in the hall, and I'm like, man, I did this, I tried this, it was horrible. What ideas do you guys have that might help me create a better class for second hour? And then I get
Arguably,
ideas.
he does that with Hulk.
He
does.
He does. Hulk. He convinces Hulk to help him. That shows that like there is something to his idea. If even Hulk is like, if even Banner is like, you're not wrong. It's like if he thought that it was gonna be a terrible thing,
because if
he didn't think there was a chance that it would work, he wouldn't have helped Tony at all.
Yes, and
True.
Hulk had since been brainwashed, and that upset him because he even said, "I will kill you as Bruce Banner right now" to Wanda. He said that. I was like, "Whoa, that was kind of a that was a big step there, Bruce."
But that's a good line. I mean, to show his frame of mind in that moment. I can kill you without changing a shade or whatever. Yeah.
Anyhow, we're not going to agree.
We're not going to agree.
And that's fine.
Is this your most chaotic podcast episode so far?
No, they're all like this.
Yeah, kind of.
And then I edit them, make us sound intelligent.
I don't mind debating this topic. Like,
I don't
I think
either.
it's fun to talk about because it's fun. It's fun, especially against someone who like strongly disagrees.
Yeah. But
I don't
like,
think we're
even
gonna
if we
judge.
go outside of this movie, actually, we need to move on.
You can finish your point. What are you gonna say?
He just doesn't learn. He's not.
I think he is.
He doesn't change.
I think
He doesn't.
does too.
I mean, he learns more about tech,
No.
but he doesn't. He doesn't learn that there have to be other solutions outside of himself.
I bet you guys have this conversation again once you watch Civil War.
I know. Now I'm like,
I
great.
know.
Why don't we redig this argument? up
Okay,
again?
then we'll redig
to me,
it then.
we're in the midst of an arc with Tony, and we're gonna see it progress and progress. And so, like, we can't bring in arguments to later movies because in the world of this, that's the future for him. So it's, but...
We
Right.
don't know what's
So,
gonna happen next.
can you... Okay, just to finish this, will you please explain to me the appreciable differences between Iron Man in the first movie and now? What are they? After he's had his come to Jesus in Iron Man.
Okay.
That guy.
Yes.
And now. What has changed?
Well, first off, he does acknowledge with the first Avengers, maybe I can use some help. Maybe I can do that. I can have other people be on it. We could be a team. Iron Man 3. He's like, let me take out this piece of metal I'm trying to be a new person because he loves Pepper and does love Pepper.
They call it the clean slate.
The clean...
Whatever.
Yeah, he destroys his suits. But
Well, externally, one thing has changed is that he is aware and has faced the extraterrestrial threat that he wasn't aware of before.
Right.
He didn't know that existed when he became Iron Man.
Yeah.
And it has his experience in that fight and blowing them up and thinking he was going to die when he did so. That changed him.
How?
he was willing to Okay, in the first Avengers, when Captain America and Iron Man are fighting, they literally say, "You're on the wire. You're gonna let people walk over you." It's like, "I'll cut the wire." I think I'd cut the wire, showing like, "Oh, he's selfish, whatever." But then it kind of seeds or plants the idea like, "Oh, I would be willing to sacrifice myself to save people in the end."
Okay.
I don't know, but in this movie, like Christy was saying, and like I said earlier, he is now obsessed with protecting everyone from everything.
Which is impossible. Like,
it is impossible. We can look
and say that's impossible.
It can't be done, but he thinks he can do it.
Because of...
Why is that a bad thing, though?
That's just, to me, that's just a character flaw.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
That makes him interesting and relatable and more dynamic.
He's also, like, I would say what Ryan said before, where he's doing it genuinely to protect people, not out of, he doesn't want the praise. Like, I think that's true. Yes, he has an ego, but, like, he's actually doing it out of desire to protect people and out of fear. Like, that's the response to what happened to him in the first Avengers. He's afraid. Like, he's faced other threats before. Like, this whole thing starts when he's kidnapped by terrorists and held hostage, and he comes up with a way out of that. And that's his response. He's like, I'm going to use technology and my resources around me to come up with a way out of everything. And now he's faced with this threat larger than the world. And so his response
is the same exact response that he had in the cave in this first Iron Man.
Because that's his character.
So he hasn't changed at all. The only difference I heard is in the beginning, I don't care about anyone except myself. And now he claims to care about the whole world. That's the only thing that's changed in 11 movies.
No.
Yeah, I think you're...
what else we got?
I think you're oversimplifying it.
I think you are too.
Still an hour and a half.
He has also learned or started on the journey of learning about relying on others. He's always relied on himself. His terrible relationship with his father has set him to be like, I am going to do my own thing and use my genius to create whatever I want to create. And then he turned it to good after he decided not to use it for weapons of war. And then he is the first one drawn into the Avengers initiative by Nick Fury. He's like, I want to put a team together. And Tony agrees. He does it. And they have those challenges. He's learned to appreciate these other people that he's working with for what they can do. He's on the journey. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like we're in the middle of an arc still.
Okay, so I'll give you that.
We can't, like, we're not going to say, like, he's done a complete 180 at this point where he's like, I love my team and I can work with them.
Okay.
He can fight with them at this point.
Okay.
Like, we've established that. But, like, yes, he still thinks it's his sole responsibility.
Right. So what I heard then is Iron Man, or Tony Stark, hasn't actually changed a whole lot, but he has started on the change. And if that's what you're saying, that's fair.
Yeah,
his arc is apparently longer than everyone else's.
Well, he was the first, so.
Yeah. And it's a lot.
And if that's true, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and just see stuff in the next ones. But I think we just see a bigger change than you see.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. It's actually called schema, I suppose.
I also think a lot of the moments...
That's a good word. I like that.
I also think a lot of the moments that come off as him being egotistical is him... Like, I feel like they're trying to show him how he puts up a front, because that's how he does it.
I think it annoys you, but I see it as more like, this is just him as he talks. He has an ego, but his ego is not like literally what he's saying right now.
He doesn't show vulnerability. So when he puts that responsibility on himself, he also doesn't communicate, this is why I feel like it's my responsibility. Because that's who he is. He's always had this front, this guard up that he quips and he jokes and he makes light of things, even though deep down he's having a hard time. So you guys feel
that's a front. So
yes.
Maybe that's the difference.
I think that's what it is.
I feel like that's who he is.
You think... Well, it is to an extent.
There's no point Okay, there is actually in whatever movie he supposedly had PTSD. What one was that?
That was
one?
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3.
Okay, there is some of that there where we see maybe there's an actual human in here.
Yeah.
Proof that Iron Man or Tony Stark has a heart from
Right.
the first movie.
And I think they're continuing that with this one. Too.
I think so too.
Okay.
Nice.
Yes, back up.
That's
This is why he asked his sister.
and that's fine. I just don't see it. I don't see much change at all.
Yeah.
But I can accept that his arc is much longer than all the rest of the characters, or mid-arc. The change from him only thinking of himself to thinking about the whole world is a massive change. I mean, not to make light of that or make that smaller than it is. For him, that's a massive change from where he started. And so I accept that we're in the arc somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm probably unfairly comparing him to other characters whose arcs have moved quicker. They've arced
Maybe.
quicker.
Or just more obviously.
I think
Or more
part of the problem was
obviously.
Iron Man 2, before
Sucked.
they knew what they were doing as a franchise. It's
I
like, what's the big it mostly was like copying the first movie
Right.
to some degree. So
Yeah.
that might be part of it.
I don't know.
I
Anyway.
don't even remember Iron Man 2. Like I've seen
Yeah.
it more than once, but I have basically no memory of that
Yeah,
movie.
That's fair.
So I will accept that.
Yeah.
He's still my least favorite and probably will always be, but I will accept that we're mid-arc rather than... So, okay.
Only
let's
because
move
they're
on.
now moving towards future stuff. Like, as
Yeah.
opposed to Iron Man 2, where they're just like copying the first one.
And like,
They've got a bigger plan.
Cool.
Okay, we can
Cool.
stop arguing about
let's
Iron
stop
Man.
arguing.
No,
about
we've
it.
reached a good...
We've reached, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
a
spot.
good consensus on it.
Yeah.
And you're never gonna
don't
like
think-
Iron Man, but
That's okay.
There might be a time post, like when we finish, I don't know, whatever. We'll talk about it in future movies.
Sounds good.
yeah. I'm sure that this will be like just the recurring thing of let's
It
talk
has
about
been.
how we feel about Iron
Man,
Man.
I need
now.
some. We've got to get some people on for Civil War now.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll enter the second half where we talk about our individual, what are our individual specialities. So of the MCU movies so far, I feel like this one is the most philosophically rich.
Cool.
There's a lot here.
Yeah.
In terms of philosophy, and most of it comes from Ultron, I think. Ultron is like everything that he says, like when he's not being snarky, everything that he's like, this is why I'm doing, from a philosophical perspective, is completely defensible.
Right.
Completely defensible. So, okay. So just the idea that he's analyzed, how do we keep the world safe? That's his directive.
Yeah.
And he's analyzed it, and the result is we have to get rid of humanity.
Yeah.
Because as long as humanity exists, there will always be danger, there will always be flawed thinking, there will always be problems, there will always be people taking over, there will always be people manipulating and hurting and whatever.
See, but I think what makes it work is that he's not a human.
Right.
He's a machine that thinks that, obviously this is the solution.
Yes. And that's philosophically, I
Yeah.
think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's right.
Yeah.
If our goal is to have everyone on the planet be safe, one of the answers to that is we remove everyone. No. If our goal is for the planet to be safe, like Earth to be safe, we have to take everyone out.
Yeah.
There's no other solution because we're flawed. We are, natural women and men, to use the religious phrase, and we always will be.
Yeah. I think that sets up the fun and distinct difference between him and Thanos.
Cool.
Which you probably already know. Anyway, doesn't
I don't know.
matter. We'll
I
get
saw
there.
the cut scene or whatever it's called.
Fine, I'll do it
where he's
myself.
like, I guess I have to do it myself.
Which doesn't even make sense if you think about it.
No,
what is he
but-
watching Earth?
I guess. I don't
He's
know.
like, oh, they got an Ultron now.
Look at
let's
that! They
take
got an
care of it for
Ultron
me.
going
Here
on.
it goes.
Oh, that tiny robot on this planet.
It's gonna wipe this one out for me. All right, we're good.
I guess put a pin in your brain when we find out what the heck Thanos' deal is, because
Okay.
it's a distinct, different thing. But that's what makes it interesting now, reflecting on all of this.
Yeah. But philosophically, what other answers are there? If we want the planet to be safe, there are no other answers. The only other one, the only philosophy that actually has somewhat of a response to that is Buddhism. And the Buddhists...
Ultron's Buddhist.
Is he?
No.
No. Ultron is the opposite of Buddhist, I think.
Oh, I see.
But the Buddhist response to this is the fourfold. Life is suffering. Suffering is caused by desire.
Yeah.
There is a way to defeat desire. It's the Eightfold Path. So the only other answer I think that philosophy provides to how do we make the planet safe is we eliminate desire. Not all desire, but as like if you think about it, like all the problems that you know about, they all have their root in I want.
Yeah.
And my I want is in contrast or can't be accomplished at the same time as your I want.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like if we want the planet to be completely safe, as far as I know, there are only two answers. Those
Global
two answers.
annihilation.
Get rid of humanity, or humanity stops desiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And how do you force humanity to stop desiring?
Right. Therefore,
Therefore.
there isn't an answer to the question of how do we keep the planet safe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no answer.
At the end when he's talking to Vision, there's a line that goes, like, it's peaceful right now, and then Ultron says, "You're confusing peace with quiet."
Yeah.
And I think that one line is super. Makes us think about our own world.
Yeah.
At the time of recording, it feels like a lot of bad stuff's going on in the planet. At least to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
There's like
I would agree with that.
issues going on as opposed to maybe a few years earlier. Like when this movie came out, there's always bad stuff going on. Don't get me wrong. But it always feels... Does it ever feel like, yeah, things are going great for our planet?
Yes.
I think so too, but for whatever reason, right now, time of recording, seems like not so much at the moment.
Actually, that just made me realize or think of something. So a few years earlier from now,
Yeah.
the entire planet is locked in their houses.
Right. Yeah.
How many robberies, murders, wars, etc. were going on? There weren't any.
I think so.
So I guess maybe there is a third solution. Isolation is the third solution to this.
Yeah.
So we close in on ourselves and don't interact.
Uh-huh.
That would be the third solution.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
Introverts unite.
Nobody leave your house.
Good with
But-
me.
No more internet. No more communication.
Oh, internet. Whoa, back up.
That's the big thing right now. That's the internet.
Especially if Ultron's
You can't be
plugged in
closed
there
off from
somewhere.
especially if Ultron's out there. You can't be closed off from everyone if the internet's still around.
Yeah.
So I feel like that mindset, is that a fair thing? Like, oh, little robberies or things here and there, like it's just never going to be 100% peaceful. But does that mean overall we're still like doing good as a species?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess was Ultron right, where it's like just because nothing's happening now, does that mean things are good? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think Ultron's wrong. I think...
Oh, good. I'm glad you don't want complete
Well, but
annihilation.
even like the whole... I think Iron Man's also wrong. Like the idea that we can, or even should, protect everyone from everything negative is wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's not, one, obviously feasible, but two, I don't think it's desirable. Because because we as a species have become what we've become because of adversity.
Right.
Not because things were smooth and calm and whatever. Yeah. I mean, there are all the cliches about, we make more advancements during wartime than peacetime, which is true. And so philosophically, what this comes down to is Ultron said it, like the species has to evolve. And if we evolve, that demands suffering. Mm-hmm. That demands difficulty. That demands adversity and trials and blah, blah, blah. Or do we want no adversity, no trials, no whatever, in which case we're here. This is static. This is the way it is. And so, I think Ultron's wrong. I think we need maybe not war. We don't need atrocities, but we have to have differences of opinion. Mm-hmm. We have to have struggle. We have to, otherwise we're stagnant. We don't increase. We don't grow. We don't change. So my response to that is that.
That's good. I like that.
Cool.
That's that's what Vision says.
Right.
Here's the line he says. Humans are odd. They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be. But there is grace in their failings. Yeah. So that's what it's talking about. Order and chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Vision.
Opposites.
I love Vision's character. Yeah, for sure. So the only the other philosophical thing I thought was really cool was when Ultron said something like everyone creates the thing that they dread. I think is what he said. So like Iron Man created Ultron, which is the thing that he dreads. He dreads this all-powerful something that can destroy the planet. And I think that that's really interesting. If we think about just our individual lives, do we do that? Do we create the thing that we dread? So in my case, I dread probably more than anything else the dissolution of my family. Right. So if I'm looking at my family, am I creating that? And the answer is yes for me. The problems that almost tore my family apart over the last year, I created those. We've come a long way as a family, and I have changed a lot. Because I fear that. So I've changed how I interact, how I think, how I feel about certain things to avoid that. So I think that question, do we create the things that we dread, is a really important question philosophically for us, because if we tie that to what we were just talking about with the happiness, safety, peace on the planet, whatever. Yeah. I think those two are directly related. If we can successfully not create the things that we dread, I feel like that would change the world. If we figure out what's the worst thing that I'm afraid of, what am I doing right now that's going to make that happen, change that thing, I think the planet changes. I think if it's possible to achieve peace and whatever, I think that's the only way to do it. Is a bunch of individuals have to make a bunch of changes so that the thing that they dread doesn't come to pass.
Sounds like what Iron Man's trying to do.
No, Iron Man is trying to do the opposite of that. Iron Man is trying to... Iron Man's... Which is why I think he sucks. He's doing the opposite of that.
I mean, Ultron and Vision are both the brainchildren of Tony. Mm-hmm. And I think so Ultron says to Vision at the end, he's like, he wanted a savior and he settled for a slave, because the Ultron version of that took his basic foundation of the idea of protecting the world and then ran away with it, interpreted it his own way, and didn't look back. Whereas Vision sees the humanity side of it, that Ultron doesn't. He's like, you're gonna fail. Like, they're doomed. Humans aren't gonna make it. And so, like, it shows, like, the different aspects of Tony's character in those two in that way. Because, yes, he does... Yeah, that's if he wanted to succeed, then he would do what you just said. Like, what am I afraid of, and how am I causing that to come about? Because that's exactly what he does. Like, that's the flaw, is that, yeah, he does cause Ultron to come about, and he almost destroys the world, when he's given the chance, so.
Yeah.
But, like, that wasn't that wasn't what he wanted, that wasn't what he envisioned, so Ultron comes back and says, you're a slave as opposed to what I am. I am my own thing, a savior, here to protect. You're going to do whatever Tony Stark wants you to do. And he's like, well, that's because I see that side of him that he wanted me to see, the humanity side, the part of saving the people that Ultron didn't look at.
Yeah. So if we keep it in the movie, then the answer to how do we save the planet is we create the Vision side of us rather than the Ultron side of us.
Yeah.
The side of us that's going to avoid the problems that are going to destroy us, and by destroying us, our families and ripple out. Yeah. That's a good point.
Vision doesn't disagree when Ultron says that the people are doomed. He doesn't disagree with that, but he appreciates the humanity still.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, philosophically, I loved
movie.
it. Very rich. I love Ultron.
Yeah.
In terms of philosophy, because it forces us to think about these two things.
I wonder how many people, the general audience, just don't even think about that stuff, though.
That is my purpose in being on this podcast.
Cool. I have, for the film studies of the real, I had a different take. Because this is the last time Joss Whedon directs this movie. He'll go on. He made the Justice League, which, by the way, that freaking joke is in both this and the Justice League movie, when the character lands on the boobs and that's in both of them somehow. You know what I'm talking about?
I did hear that it happened organically in this one, though. Like, just because I read the IMDb trivia. I think I read that it happened organically, and they stayed in character, so they were able to keep it.
Okay, well, maybe we'll pass. But, like, why the heck is the same thing in freaking Flash and Wonder Woman, like, freaking Joss Whedon? Anyway. Joss Whedon has since been canceled by all counts and purposes for different stories coming up in his Buffy the Vampire days, and then some stuff going on when he was directing the Justice League movie. So maybe he's a scumbag. Let's just go with that. That's apparently what the deal is. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Sure.
He's a big old bully, and actually we shouldn't like him. I was going to bring up, and you guys probably know about it here in this room, but maybe people don't know in the microphone listening to this podcast.
The people in the microphone.
Death of the Author.
What is that, Ryan?
Oh, well, let me tell you. One time, I brought up Death of the Author in a class full of seniors, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, I know about Death of the Author." And I was like, "You know about Death of the Author?" The student who graduated some time ago was like, "Yeah, I'm bisexual. Of course I know Death of the Author." And I'm like, "I don't know how that correlates, but whatever." Like,
now I'm gonna be thinking about that the rest of the day.
Sometimes I'm like, what did he mean by that? Don't know how that works. Chrissy, do you know what Death of the Author is?
Explain it to me, Ryan.
I actually have it in front of me.
Yeah, that's set up too.
I know, like for the purpose.
Ryan, we're on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, tell us all about Death of the Author.
Please put us out of our misery.
Essentially, it asks, can you enjoy a piece of work or like look at art, any art, and like not take in consideration the author, the author's life, who the author is or whatever. This comes from Roland, this is a French last name, Barthes.
It's Bart.
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 This is 1906. No, this comes, what year did this come out? 1968. Wasn't published in English until 1977. In the 60s, the French New Wave was going on, and French filmmakers were allowed to be way more experimental and did not rely on conventions. And in America, we were still living by the Hays Code stuff, and to a large extent, could only do certain things and follow the rules and things. Once again, good movies still came out of it, and it was essentially needed to kind of break free with a new bunch of authors. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this is like looking at French films, things. Anyway, Bart was like...
better than Barthez or whatever you said.
Barthez.
Barthez.
That he came up with this idea and was published in that magazine. Here's the thing. Just because it's published and by a philosopher doesn't mean we need to accept it into law. In fact, I'm just bringing it up to like, hey, here's a way to look at art, but it's not the rule. It's not even like what we should do. But when you have someone like Joss Whedon, who multiple people came out and said, no, he was mean to me, aggressive to me, maybe wasn't a nice person. Not everyone's saying this, but enough where you're like, maybe we should step away from this person. Can we still appreciate what they put into the world? Can we separate the art from the artist? Or I'll ask you guys here in person, when a thing is made and out, is it ours? Like a book is published, does it no longer belong to the author, or does it no longer belong to the director? Does it belong to us to watch and analyze and interpret?
It's a good question. I think that I think that to an extent, I do think that once it's out in the world, it is open to the interpretation of the viewers, the public who sees it and engages with it. Like, you know, for example, because it's a big one, Harry Potter. That's the biggest one probably in the world right now.
There's a great video essay on this very topic by Lindsay Ellis on YouTube. It's fantastic. But she brings up that because J.K. Rowling
has become a controversial figure.
Yeah, and actively involved in still making the world.
Right, yeah.
Through Twitter and movies and other things.
I don't know, is Pottermore still a thing?
I don't know
if it still exists. But like, all of these new things were becoming canon in the world. Yeah. And I'm like, we didn't need that. You don't have to say this means that this.
Do you know about this, Deets? So one example among many is someone mentioned plumbing in Hogwarts Castle. J.K. Rowling through Twitter is like, yeah, wizards just used to magic it away before plumbing. And people are like, wait a second, what?
We didn't need the author to. We really didn't need the author to come and tell us that in her world, that canon is that magic gets rid of all the plumbing needs.
Doo-doo.
We don't need that.
To other examples, the most famous one being like, oh, I always imagined Dumbledore as being a gay person. And it's like, is that in the text? Is that even represented? Are you just trying to make yourself look better now type of thing? Among other things J.K. Rowling has said.
Right. Which is like, if you wanted to argue, it's subtext, it's in there. You can argue it.
Yeah.
Those things I don't think need to just be said, especially after the fact. The books are out, the movies are made.
Right.
We don't need to say, also, by the way, this is canon. This is canon.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it as I was writing it.
Yeah.
Unless you included it, I don't think you should come back and try to make everything that you want to canon.
I agree. So I think like what we're doing in the podcast here is an example of that. We are in charge of interpreting the subtext. And so I don't know that kills the author, but I do feel like the author, once it has been released to us, simply becomes one of the public, one of the interpreters of the art that they've created.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have the right answer. They don't necessarily have the wrong answer. They're just one of many.
Right.
Maybe a little more informed, but anytime the author moves outside of what they have created to say, oh no, this and this and this, they're just one of the interpreters of the art. They're not the authority on the art. So yeah, I guess if that's the death of the author, then yeah, I think so.
I think the most famous example of that is the guy who directed the original King Kong. People were like, this is obviously a metaphor for slavery. People going into another place, kidnapping King Kong, bring him back to America in chains, obviously a metaphor for slavery. And the director of King Kong's like, no, I just wanted to make a movie about a giant monkey. But like you said, that's one interpretation. Like,
Right.
we can say, no, you're wrong, and this is how we can.
Well, but he doesn't
interpret.
have to be wrong.
Well.
It's just like that's an interpretation, sure.
Right.
So like in both of our classes, we do literary criticism, and we read pieces through different lenses, different ways of viewing the
Yes.
world. None of those interpretations are the right ones or the wrong ones. There are wrong ways to read text.
Yeah, there are, yeah.
There are obviously wrong ways, but I don't know that there is a right way to read a text or to interpret a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which is frustrating because, like we were just talking about, appropriate way is just to watch and look at the pretty colors and be done. Like, just watch and not think about the ideas.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. You know what I mean?
Right. But that ain't not to, I guess this horse is going to keep being beaten. The danger of that is just looking at the pretty colors isn't possible. Like, it's not possible to just look at it and have it not shape or impact or change you in some way. Mm-hmm. So my argument for this whole podcast is you are going to be shaped by the movies that you watch.
Yeah.
Who do you want to have be in charge of that shaping?
Yeah.
Do you want
The
you to be in
Hollywood
charge,
elite.
the Hollywood elite shaping
The
you?
Illuminati.
Or do you want you to, yeah. I don't have, there's not a conspiracy here.
I know.
It's just, do you want to be the one determining that? Or do you want other people? Do you want Hollywood to do that?
Right.
And that's, I think, ties into what you're saying here.
Yeah.
I think we are king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reader response theory, I think, is the way that we interact with literature.
The reader, the viewer, the consumer.
I think media literacy is just decreasing.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
100% agree.
there are so many people like, I can't believe this movie's promoting this bad idea. It's not. The movie isn't saying this is a good thing. This is just something bad choices characters in the movie are making.
Right.
I mean, it'd be like saying, like, this Age of Ultron is telling us that humanity should be wiped out to save the planet.
Right.
It's like saying that's
Yeah.
what that movie's trying to say, which it's not.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
arguing that that's the bad thing.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that the bad guy is the one telling us that in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Death of the author.
Death of the
I have.
Going.
There was Andrew Saris. This was also published around the same time. This is a literal reaction to Bart. Andrew Saris. This is called Notes on the Auteur Theory. He's basically contesting this idea, which, good to do.
Yeah.
Because he basically he points to Shakespeare. Like, oh, can you appreciate Shakespeare without knowing anything about Shakespeare? Maybe you can't, type of thing. If a man on the street could not invoke Shakespeare's name as an indefinable cultural reference, he would probably have less contact with all things artistic. Like, oh, this is a Shakespeare thing here and there. The Shakespearean scholar, by contrast, will always be driven to explore the surrounding terrain with all the result that all the Elizabethan dramatists gain more rather than less recognition through the preeminence of one of their number. Meaning, like, if you understand who Shakespeare is and when he wrote things and what was going on in the country and stuff, you can get more out of it, type of thing.
Sure.
So he's basically saying, is it possible to honor a work of art without honoring the artist involved? He thinks not. Like, it's impossible. But he also, but
I don't think those are mutually exclusive things.
But this is what I'm glad you said that. You're setting me up, and I'm gonna spike it back.
Knock it out of the park.
He said, unfortunately, some critics have embraced the auteur theory as a shortcut to film scholarship. So whether you agree with it or not, some critics, proud to this day, even though this was written in the 60s, are like, yeah, but if you don't see what I'm seeing because of my background knowledge, then you're just wrong at this point. With you see it or you don't attitude toward the reader, The particular lazy auteur critic can save himself the drudgery of communication explanation. It's like, oh yeah, but if you know who the author is, you understand, yada, yada, yada. So Sarah's here is saying, like, there is like he doesn't agree with the auteur theory. He doesn't agree with death of the author, but at the same time, you have to evoke the author. You know, like, you can't only evoke the author. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's what I think I agree with, because it's like, I don't think that the author has the full say in anything in their world that they've created once it's out there, once it's there to be seen.
Yeah.
I don't think you should immediately discount anything that they say outside of their creation that you've seen, but you know, like, it shouldn't just be one or the other.
Yeah.
It needs to be taken both ways. Like, maybe J.K. Rowling has come out with some things about Harry Potter that are worth knowing. Like, there's some fun tidbits, like they're like canon now, that don't matter so much. We don't need to know about Hogwarts plumbing, but it's fun to know stuff about, like, the history of Hogwarts that she's come up with. Like, it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
I took it a little differently from that.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that those two are opposite ends of a spectrum. Like, I think we have, the author becomes one of the many. But I think whoever that was, what I got out of that is we need to know about the author in order to understand the art. Mm-hmm. And I think in some cases that's true. Yeah. I think in other cases it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know, the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, for example. Knowing about that guy and whoever and whatever, I don't think that adds anything to it. His example is an extreme example. Shakespeare, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. We need to know, about Shakespeare's time, et cetera, to understand it. I don't think that negates Bart's idea, though. I think it's just kind of and we also need this. So, like, my best example is Chris Nolan's Inception.
Yeah.
At the end of that, Chris Nolan is wrong. He says the top falls. He's wrong.
Okay, but
the top does not fall. And that's okay. He has his opinion. If he wanted the top to fall, he should have put that in the movie.
I think that's why he says it. Like, he doesn't show it. He may say it after the fact.
Right.
Like, I think the top falls. That he's interpreting his own works.
Right.
Which is awesome.
And he's just as valid and invalid as I am.
Inception is such an interesting example because, and I didn't come up with this, if you look at Leo DiCaprio in that movie and what Christopher Nolan looks like in real life, they look so similar. Blonde, sleeked black hair. And someone has gone through and broken down each character, like, this is the producer, this is the writer, this is, like,
they represent the people that make films. They represent the different...
Right.
The different...
Oh, that's cool. A way to interpret it. So it's like, if you... look at the author, it's like, this is just Nolan's idea of making a movie and, like, how you make a movie, and, like, he's put himself as the main character at that point. Cool. Which is something you couldn't, like, if you took out the author and just, like, watch whatever.
You don't have to interpret it that way.
You don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to do anything, I suppose.
It's a cool interpretation, though. Yeah. Like, it shouldn't be just discounted because it didn't. The filmmakers didn't come up with it or like tell it publicly. Yeah. If that's what he did in his mind, that's awesome. But he didn't, like, say, like, this is a metaphor for filmmaking. Yeah. So it's cool that it could be interpreted that way. I think that's what's the best part about, like, interpreting movies or books or anything is, like, it's more fun, I think, to have discussion and discord about it. Yeah, like, we spent forever talking about Iron Man. We're probably never going to agree, but I think it's awesome to interpret it differently. Like, that's fun for me.
Yeah. See, in the video essay mentioned earlier with Lindsay Ellis, she brings up The Fault in Our Stars, which I haven't read or seen the movie, but I've done both. I might be spoiling the ending to some degree, where it's about these characters with cancer dying, and she just wants to know what happens after the book of her favorite book. Gets to the author, like, what happens next? He's like, nothing happens. The book is over, type of thing. And then other stuff happens, so that's like not how this book ends or anything.
See, but that's a good example of it, because within the book, the character has a favorite book. The character herself has cancer. She likes a book about a character that has cancer, and the book within the book ends abruptly because that character dies, and she wants to find she wants the resolution for everything else, the other characters in that world. And she gets a chance to talk to the author, and the author, it doesn't matter to him. He's like, the book is over. Nothing happens to them.
But we're free to interpret whatever we want. That's what we're getting at, I think.
Yeah. To tie this to like what we do as teachers, I think that's what we're trying to teach our students is as long as you can make a claim and explain and defend and provide evidence for your reason, that's just as valid as any other claim about whatever you're talking about. So, cool.
Yeah.
That was a good film studies of the real.
Thanks,
That was
Deets.
awesome.
Wow.
Ethics.
Oh, we have a...
Yeah, we're only
I'll tell you what. I'll just sit back and just watch you talk.
No, because this has to be a dialogue. So the ethics...
I forgot about ethics.
The ethics of the real that I picked out was the idea of power. The ethics of power and complete power. We have famously Spider-Man with his thing and about power, but this is the first time, as far as I know, in the MCU where a character has had complete power. Like Ultron, if he can succeed, he has complete power.
Yeah.
And so, ethically, to finish the thought, and then we can talk about it, everyone on the planet has some degree of power. So parents have power to some degree over their children.
Yeah.
Teachers have power over their classes. Doctors have power over whatever. And so we're left with the open question, I think, at the end of Age of Ultron, what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Like, what is the correct way to use power? And so...
The obvious answer is to use the power you have to do good in general.
Which is what?
Which is Iron Man does.
Right, and that's the problem.
Which is, but of course, the problem is that good is then open to however you interpret it.
Right.
Yeah.
We might not all see what good is as the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've gone over a number of schools of ethical thought in the podcast. So just to bring in a couple of them, we have utilitarian ethics. So in utilitarian ethics, we should use power to benefit the most people.
Yeah.
We have virtue ethics. We should use power in a way that reflects well on us, on myself and my group. We have loyalist ethics. We should use power to protect my group, screw everybody else. We have empathetic ethics. We should use power in a way that if I were the person being used, having the power, we should use... If I was getting powered at, I don't know how to say it. If I was the one that was
empowered?
If I was the one that you were using power on, how would I want you to use it? So if I'm the weak person, you're the strong person, how would I want you to use your power?
Right.
And so those four, I think all four of those show up in this movie. And I think the ultimate answer, okay, so probably the reason why... Actually, I just realized this. Because the way I would have used power is the way that Cap uses it. Because I'm a very heavy empathetic ethicist.
Yeah.
If it was me hanging off at the edge of this city rising, I would want someone to...
See, that's why I was shocked when you had an issue with that. I was like, what are you talking about?
What else did it... Yeah, that's
But
what
the way
do.
that it's set up, like that is an asinine response to what's going on.
That's all that he can do.
It's all that he can... Yeah, I think it's
right.
We're probably not going to save these people in the end. We're all going to die, but if we can, we should. So we'll do whatever. One thing we can
I just
do.
realized that.
You
That's
are like
interesting.
Captain America. That's why you have a poster of him in your classroom.
No, I have a poster in my classroom because someone illegally broke into my classroom and stuck it on my wall.
I would have done such a thing.
I think... Anyhow. And so we have all of these, and there are other ways of looking at the question, how do we use power? But
Yeah.
I think it's left open to us. Should we use power in like which of these ways, and we have to make that decision. The challenge this movie presents to us is then, okay, once we make that decision, this is how I should use power.
Yeah.
Act on it.
Right.
Do it. And I think this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Ryan, about whatever you look at the pretty colors.
Oh,
a lot of us just
watch and don't take.
We just watch
Yeah.
and take it in. But the movies, with all of their flaws and the fact that Iron Man is a part of them aside, they present us with like magnificent questions for us to answer in ourselves.
Yeah.
This is one of them, because everyone listening to this podcast has power to a greater or lesser extent. How are you going to use it? What are you going to do with it?
You're going to use your power to like this podcast and share it with your friends.
Sure.
Power to turn off the podcast.
No.
Yeah.
If you're still here, we love you.
Yes.
So do you have a dessert for us?
At the park. Oh, I got it. There's a great one. There's a great one.
Yeah.
When with Stanley's cameo.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this alcohol was forged in the whatever the mount. Quit trying to scare us, son. And then he's drunk. One guy can't even move. He's just standing there.
This is the first time I even noticed that guy in the background. Like, she's just standing there not moving.
And Stanley is like, Excelsior.
I actually did notice a couple things during this watch that I'd never noticed before.
Like what?
Like, after the first time Ultron shows himself and they fight in the tower, Kobe Smulders is like, I want to say pulling glass out of her foot.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I saw that too.
Like, what? Stop. Why is this what she's doing in this scene? It's like she got stepped on glass, I guess, and now we get to see her tweezing it out of, anyway.
Yeah.
Like little stuff, like not important stuff like that, but, little stuff. I also, like, haven't watched this in such a long time that now that I know what the Infinity Stones are for, like, I actually kind of comprehended that scene more and didn't just shut my brain off. Yeah.
Is there a deleted scene with more stuff there? Or
there could be. I have this one on DVD. That's how I watched it, because I don't have Disney Plus. And I was really hoping they'd have more special features. Remember those back in the day?
Yeah.
But all they had, they just talked about like traveling because they filmed on location in all those countries, which is really cool.
It's cool.
But I wanted more than that. I maybe would have watched it again with commentary, but it didn't even have that on the copy that I have.
Lame.
Cool.
We're ranking them. Follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Mr. Shirai Hud.
Don't
Jason
Don't
is
follow me.
Broken Staple.
No.
Do you want to shout out your Letterboxd?
Yeah, I got a Letterboxd. It's at Christy Colleen.
Nice.
I don't know why would you follow someone on Letterboxd? I don't
To
understand.
see what they say. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Do I need to explain social
So
media?
mostly I follow like 8 people on Letterboxd, and Ryan is
really?
2 of them.
I follow one person on Letterboxd because he made me follow him, so he could have another follower.
Me?
Yes.
Something I had it on a dating app as my profile. I put, don't bother following me on Instagram, follow me on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
And I got some responses from people like, hey, what's Letterboxd? Tell me about that. And I got some random followers from
cool.
it too. So I'm like, cool. Nothing came of it. I didn't date any of those people. But I got followers, so, that's fine.
See, it's just, whatever.
No, I enjoy Letterboxd because all of the people on Letterboxd have their heads so far up their butts that it's kind of funny to watch them.
You didn't rate this movie. What would you give it out of 5 stars?
I did too.
Where are you?
Didn't I? I thought I did.
Nope.
This is less awesome than the Avengers. I think I'd put it above Iron Man 3. Okay, so I would put this above Thor, below the Avengers. So probably 3.5-ish stars.
I gave it 3.5 as well.
Oh my goodness gracious. So apparently your 3.5 is more positive than my 3.5.
Yeah.
Most of my positive stuff came from, like I said, the rich philosophical bedrock that we've got going on here. And also Hulk and Black Widow's stuff. Cool.
I feel like sometimes not. that like, oh, they must only watch. Like, I feel like people like Ryan only watches Marvel movies. I watch all sorts of stuff.
Oh, that's good. Okay, follow me on Letterboxd because I certainly don't only watch MCU.
Yeah, I just watched I'm watching the Three Colors trilogy. What's that? It's a French trilogy from the 90s that I only want to watch so I could bring up. In best trilogies, did you ever consider the Three Colors? But then the first movie's so freaking good. It's like, wow. Sometimes when something significant happens in our life, we just try to push everyone away. What does that do to you, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. We'll do the Three Colors trilogy in the future.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure you'll get there.
Our audiences demand this more French cinema.
So I actually watched a movie that I think is a really good example of how far I appreciate art house.
Yeah.
So it's called Off Season.
I don't know it.
Yeah. I mean, I watch movies that are great, but people haven't seen them because they cause you to think. But anyhow.
Anyway.
Dear listener, as we always say, please think critically. These movies are trying to get you to think in a certain way, act in a certain way, believe certain things. You need to put your brain between the movie and your brain.
Yes. Any final thoughts, Christy?
No.
Okay.
No,
Don't forget, leave us a like. We are on everything.
Yeah, subscribe.
Amazon, Apple, Google,
Tell your
Spotify.
Tell your people.
YouTube. Leave us a comment. Send us an email at desertoftherealpod@gmail.com. And we love you.
Yeah, we do. We love you. We appreciate you guys listening and thinking.
Yeah.
So
Bye.
bye.